So I'm the founder and CEO of TeachPitch. TeachPitch was founded in 2014. So we're a little bit over 5 years old. We are a technology that helps resolve the problem of information abundance for teachers. We have, as you know, we're a business, so a for-profit business, a technology, if you will. We're based in 3 cities: London, Tirana, and Beijing. We have a B2B model and a B2C model. On the B2B side, we work with schools, but also with companies to make sure we help them overcome the problem of information abundance. And while on the B2C side, we work with lots of teachers who sign up to our solution. And we're growing quite quickly. We currently have over 38,000 users in 200 countries, growing weekly with over 125 to 150 who join our community, who are all interested to find the content that we've curated. In addition, we hold now over 178,000 resources from 220 learning platforms that our team has all carefully curated so that teachers can find it more easily. This is a little bit about TeachPitch. I'm not going into detail about what we do. I think in the further presentation, some of that will become more clear. But just to give you an idea who I am and who we are. Here is basically where I creatively stole the title from. So Bain and Company, it's a strategic consultancy company, very well known all over the world. Once kind of it was clear that COVID-19 would be spreading as quickly as it is, they launched this specific overview for CEOs to see. And throughout this presentation, I would like to use that as a framework, also because this is a quick visual that all of you, I feel, can use just as a reminder or a benchmark to see, if you're doing the right thing. It's by no means the Holy Grail. I don't think it covers everything, and because it's far more complicated, all the things that are happening. But just for you to use it every now and then, I think that would hopefully be very helpful. Moving on. So number 2. On the financial end, stress test your profit and loss and liquidity. I think here we are in an advantage as startups. Many of us are startups that have grown potentially from a bootstrap scenario to a further mature scenario. And basically what I would like you to do when I say stress test is take yourself back to the very early days that you started your company. And for some of you, it might still be early days. So really make yourself aware of, okay, what is my monthly burn rate? What is the essential budget that I need for my company to continue to sustain? Be very strict with yourself and make sure you put that number down. Do the calculations, do the math, so you know what that amount is. And then liaise that, of course, to how much you still have in your account. And that could be a hard confrontation for some of us. But if you do that, if you give yourself that reality check, it also allows you to assess where additional income can come from. And that brings along to new different questions. First of all, what are sources of income that are still marked on the list, that are still happening? Contracts perhaps that are coming together, investment that is coming along, any specific tax credits that are coming along, or any incentivification programs now set up by the government. So in the UK, some programs have been set up. So how quickly can you get to those? Those are things to think along. Not only to identify them as alternative sources to make sure you generate cash flow, but also as sources that could potentially be affected. Certain contracts that you might have locked down verbally, or that you might have okays on, that might have changed. The synergies on that might have changed. You might encounter a delay. In some cases, you also might encounter kind of that people want it earlier. So that's good news, but make sure you have it on your radar. The worst thing you can do is not address it, not address the sources of income, not address where revenue is coming from, not address the sources that you need to sustain. So make sure you address all of those, and that you have a clear dashboard of what is happening. Just to give you a reality check, there are worst case situations. I have a friend who works, who just founded his own company in marketing consultancy. It was a very thriving business until 2 weeks ago. He had 12 very big contracts that were going to happen. All 12 of them have been cancelled. So, and it went very quickly. It was a process of less than a week, whereby all the people who were working with him for his marketing workshops, which were very high level, in collaboration with the most renowned advertising agency in the world, so very high reputation, but that all went out. That was all kind of crossed off the list from senior management boards from the big companies that he was working with. So do not kid yourself that this could not happen, right? That's the reality check. That's the worst case that I want to give you. The best case is, of course, that we are working in education. People are looking for alternatives to train one another, to make sure that education between teachers and students, between teachers and teachers, or maybe in the corporate sector, continue to exist. But make sure you are aware of those, and you are aware of those opportunities. The worst thing you can do is not respond and not react. Okay, the next one. Defend against revenue declines. I think I already addressed it in the previous one to a certain extent, so I won't repeat myself. But the best way to defend yourself against revenue declines is to show your clients an insight in where your product is today, and potentially upgrade your product with some additional features that can help your clients in this day and age. So to give you an example, we already have 178,000 learning and teaching resources freely available from over 220 platforms. In addition to that, we have now a library of instructional video tutorials on how to engage in distance learning and in digital teaching. So these videos, we will make them available to anyone who needs them to make sure they can optimally engage in distance teaching and learning, that they can build online videos and can use it to train their peers or continue to school their students. So that is a new product upgrade that we have come up with just to deal with this specific situation and just to keep on working with our clients. Again, I refer to one of our biggest clients that we reach out to, and just to give you full insight of that, that is a government. So we're working with an entire country to help them with their teacher training. And we basically said, like, okay, how can we help you with this video teaching and learning element? That is not our core expertise, but we do know how to bring videos together, how to bring this video teaching and learning element together. In addition, we can bring you potentially in the hundreds of digital instructors who can help train your teachers to do this. So that is kind of an improvised product, but we have the capacity and the resources to bring it to that country, so we are doing that. That is kind of an advantage of the infrastructure as we are set up, and we're not shy to be proactive at this moment in time to make sure that that is properly addressed. Another way to defend revenue declines is to change your contract structures. Some of you might be dealing with weekly payments, monthly payments, quarterly payments, or annual payments. You can upgrade those. So you could say you could defer monthly to quarterly or even to annual if you haven't thought about that. Just not to lose your client. Your client might be in a more dire financial situation than you are. Show empathy by maybe deferring the payment structure. Show like, okay, we understand the situation you're in. We understand that things might be bootstrapped for you. Here's what we can do to make sure that you do not lose the client. I feel that if you do not respond, you're going to lose the client altogether. So it's better to be proactive and say, okay, let's take it from monthly to quarterly or perhaps to annual, but show this level of empathy and awareness for your client. And last but not least, and I think I've already repeated it with the empathy and awareness, but go the extra mile to demonstrate to your customers that you care. I think that's very important, specifically for people working in education. Again, if you say, well, business as usual, nothing's going on, then I think you're going to miss the boat. So that is my opinion, but feel free to discuss later on. Number 4, stabilize operations for the new normal. I love this one because it gives us perspective. The new normal, we do not know what that's going to look like. Let me tell you that first and foremost. But the new normal for me is the situation when all of this is blown over, the situation whereby I can just go to a restaurant, a bar, where I can meet up with my team, where I can sit down, where I can travel. That's currently not the situation. For me, the new normal is a point in time that I've defined. So I marked in my calendar a new date where I can, carefully say that that's going to be the new normal. For us, that's going to be effectively the new academic year. That's September 2020. Before that point, I'm not counting on anything. That is how we do it. I hope that moment, will come sooner rather than later. But I've marked it in September 2020 because that is when, our clients will be able to look at a normal academic year. When there's hope for a new normal academic year, this specific academic year, isn't normal. Whether it's going to reopen in May or June or the end of April for that matter, it isn't normal anymore. 2020 will always be marked as a year that has been affected by COVID-19. So I've marked September 2020, and to my team and to my clients, I'm already talking about September 2020. Here's what we can do. Here's the contract that we can engage with. Here are the services that we can deliver in September 2020. Of course, we can deliver lots of other services and support to you before that, definitely, but it's all going to be in an improvised situation. 2, try to demonstrate advantages that the current situation brings along. So again, us working in education technology, lots of people looking for new options to educate and teach one another. You might be a solution for that. So try to bring yourself in the mix and try to show the advantages of your product, not only of your product, but also of the connections that you have. For us, talking to clients, they might be looking for a specific product or specific features that might be among you as my WISE Accelerator colleagues. So I could bring you to the table in a mix, in a deal that is currently non-existent, but it could still very much be of interest to a client. So make sure you leverage as much as you can from the connections that you have, but also from the advantages that your product has, and not only in its current state, but also perhaps in its future state. And don't be shy to talk about those ideas to your clients. They are currently looking, so keep on talking about that. And 3, do not give up in taking the lead. What I mean by that is you have a team that is very uncertain about what's going to happen. So make sure that each and every day you present yourself as ready for battle. We have a WhatsApp group every single morning at 8 a.m. GMT, which is 9 a.m. for our team, because there's a 1-hour time difference. I say, good morning, team amazing. How are you doing? What can I do for you? Whatever. I might be over energetic here, but I do demonstrate that I'm taking the lead and say, okay, guys, how can we work together? What can we do? And stuff like that. So that is taking the lead towards my employees, but also taking the lead towards your clients. Ask your clients what you can do, where you can help. Stay in communication with them. Don't hold back. Don't say, sorry, we're closed, if there's no need for that. So make sure you demonstrate to your clients that your shop is still open. 5, plan urgent cost cuts to preserve cash. Here I'm just going to give some examples, and again, maybe repeat some of the things I've said before, because I do think they're intertwined. First and foremost, be honest and transparent of where you are financially to all direct stakeholders. No one is expecting amazing results for your company at this moment in time. There's also no need to boast about how great business is for you at this moment in time if business isn't great, right? This is not the time to showcase yourself as a perfect, amazing example that's flourishing and growing, because no one has the attention span for that. Everyone is in survival modus. So no one will hold it against you if you say, well, listen, things are a little bit difficult, or we're trying to navigate this or that, or trying to work around certain things. The best thing here is to be honest and transparent. So if you have bills that are yet unpaid, that you're not sure from a cost cut perspective whether you're going to be able to pay, it's better to go to your vendor, whether this is an accountant, whether these are perhaps lawyers or whatever, and basically say, okay, we're very sorry, but can we defer this payment or pay a part of this payment, rather than saying, oh, we're all good for it, while actually you're not. I know this is a difficult situation. I know this is not always something you would want there to be. You would prefer it the other way around. But if it happens, it's best to confront it head on than to ignore it. That's basically what I was trying to say here. In terms of getting cost cutting organized, you can also liaise with colleagues or partner organizations who are in the same boat as you. To give you one specific example, we are in an open office space in London, and none of the companies, they're all kind of similarly sized as we are, but none of the companies are using that open office space as we speak. So this week I received an email from one of the CEOs of the other companies that basically said, why are we paying this desk space? Actually, we should negotiate with the open office space that we're currently not there. So no one is using these desks, our employees are not there, we're not using any of their facilities. It's difficult for everyone. Can we send out an email to everyone saying, to basically the CEO of the open office space saying, what can we do to work out this situation? We can't continue to pay premium price for these desks. What alternatives do you have available to make sure you don't go under, but us neither? It is best to ask such a question as a front, so as a collective of companies, rather than on your own. So if you recognize the situation, then do liaise with direct partners who are in the same boat as you, to see if you can renegotiate something as a collective rather than as an individual. And last but not least, come up with different business models, like revenue shares, that can make stakeholders happy. An example of that is what we're currently doing. We are working with other partners that are also teacher communities. We have an interesting product that could potentially help them with their business, because it converts, their teacher community converts, they get a client, we then give them a referral fee. So if we get a paid client from that teacher community, we will make sure they get a cut of what we receive. That is a new business model that teacher community entertains. Why? Because it's a good alternative. It's money for us, it's money for them. This is a new business model that we are entertaining now in this specific situation, because that teacher community wants to continue to grow, as do we, right? So, and here there might be an overlap among us as well, that you say, well, we have a similar community, we're happy to entertain your product to make sure that money continues to come in. It's a new business model, it's a revenue share, we haven't thought about it before, but hey, it's money coming in. This is also a new way to make sure money comes in. I know it's not necessarily a cost-cutting perspective, but it is a way to preserve cash or to tap into a new cash flow when you're looking for it. And then last point, play offense, not just defense. I've said it before throughout this presentation, but remain proactive to find opportunities in a very quickly changing educational landscape. I think you're going to find that the situation as it is this week is going to be different next week. So make sure you stay on top of that, and that you continue to offer services and insights with your clients. Stay in contact with them. Approach them over WhatsApp, email, whatever you can to keep them involved. You will win this if you keep at it, right? So put your teeth into it and do not let go. The worst thing you can do now is be quiet and just say, well, we're just having a holiday. We're just parked here. Of course, that might be different for you in different situations. If you are in a situation that's currently completely stagnated, I completely understand. But if you're not, if there's even a small avenue, then please take full advantage of it. It's not only for your clients, but also for your team. I've noticed that when I talk to my team about possible new opportunities that we see, that basically incentivizes them as well. It energizes them as well, that I see a new opportunity and that we're going for it. So don't hesitate to share it with them, because it will also help them. I think it's better to do it that way than the other way around, because if all else fails, then your team will see that you are trying and that you're working hard to bring something together. rather than the other way around, whereby your team will say, well, we didn't hear from you. We didn't really know what was going on. So we also went quiet and went our own way. Last but not least, and I think that should close off my specific part of the presentation. I hope there's going to be time for discussion after this. Is stay in continuous communication with everyone involved. Everyone involved is you as co-members of the WISE Accelerator. Everyone involved are my clients. Everyone involved are my employees. Everyone involved is going to be, an entire educational ecosystem. As you see on social media, we're all in this together. So make sure that everyone is aware of who you are and where you are in this specific situation. That is it from my end. The last thing I would say is keep calm. Please do so. And then the most obvious one, wash your hands.
Thank you for your insights. Actually, we are joined by a couple of founders and CEOs of Edtech startups. It's a good opportunity to ask also about their insights and experience during these days. So we have with us David Berg, founder of Inblaze, Edtech startup based in the US. Johan, founder of Medix Academy, based in the UK, and William, founder of Chalk, based in Canada. David, can you tell us, based on your experience these days, how are you dealing with the change in demand these days due to the crisis? How are you navigating that?
Yeah, I think what we're thinking, first of all, one of the things that's been, we're in a really strong position right now. I think there's definitely some instability, but because I'm based out of a nonprofit, there's a lot of foundations that are like stepping in to help and looking for ways to help. So in many ways, we as a business model, we're as strong as ever. But also as a platform that's really around distributed learning networks, like that's our work, is helping to foster and disrupt this simple network of schools being the source of knowledge. We are finding that there's new cracks and new openings, new ways to engage with customers, and in fact even new channels that we see that are opening, just starting to open up. There's still just like the crisis mode right now, but we're also seeing that teachers are leaning back in their chairs, principals, school leaders are leaning back in their chairs and thinking about, okay, now what's next? Because things have fundamentally changed. And us as a platform that really is not for the status quo in education, is for really driving some innovative change. We're finding that there's a lot of it's anecdotal at this point, but we're certainly finding that there's receptivity to that. So I think for everybody else on here, thinking about how your platform can help shift the paradigm of what school is, because schools, I think, are one of the most titanic and slow changing bureaucracies in the world. Yet they've had this crisis, this shock to the system that's causing them that's enabling that super tanker to turn way more quickly than it is normally used to. And so I think we all have a really unique opportunity right now to get the eyes and ears and hearts and minds of schools engaged in some pretty innovative work. So yeah, we're excited right now. We're super busy building more communities of folks to address the issue.
I see. Can you tell us, maybe give us an example of one benefit that you are able to rip off out of this situation, something that helped generate positive demand, for instance?
Yeah, so for instance, we're in talks with Kansas City in Missouri, in the state of Missouri, in the middle of the United States, around a cohort of building a network-wide, a city-wide approach to internships with some pretty typical high schools and across multiple districts. They're now more ready. Like we just had a call yesterday, like they're more ready than ever right now for that work, because they're like looking for something different. And what they're knowing is that so in that example, like they're looking at the fact about how fragile the whole structure of education is when we rely on this simple and parallel network structure where you have one school and that's where all the kids go. They go into the building to learn. If those things, if the system is that simple, it's really vulnerable. And so they're eager for us, and we've also just built out regional and state and district level functionality. It just so happens we're lucky right now, so we're well positioned to talk to them about really shifting for an entire city how much time students spend in the classroom as opposed to getting out into the real world.
Interesting. Thank you, David. We have also with us William, founder of Chalk. William, can you tell us maybe quickly what Chalk is working on and how you're managing the shift in demand these days?
Absolutely. So hi, everybody. So at Chalk, we've certainly seen definitely, a shift in terms of our conversations. I think with the ramp up of really this crisis, a lot of meetings are getting canceled. Of course, whether it's sales, whether it's even current customers, that's basically what we're seeing across the board. I think it's not so much we're in a new normal yet, as Aldo and David had talked about, but we're in a bit of a state of panic because folks are not quite sure how they are going to be able to work online and what they are going to be frankly doing, in other words. In the few conversations we've had with our own customers, what has been interesting is that, we've seen folks that are completely shut down, but we've also seen folks that are actually looking for things to do, right? Things that they've been putting off for a while, whether it's, updating their curriculum or just longer term projects, because they're still paying their teachers, they're getting to do some of those work. So that's certainly beneficial to us. And of course, on the company side, I don't think I have to repeat what Aldo has been mentioning, but certainly right now is putting a lot of projects on hold, ensuring that we have the runway and making sure that we're managing this as the situation is changing week on week.
I see. Thank you, William. Johan, as a startup based in the UK, can you tell us a bit more about your situation and how you're managing the shift in demand these days?
Okay, sure. So we're so actually, I mean, to be honest, we're it's been a bit of a roller coaster in that we were very, very worried because obviously we deal with health organizations primarily, so hospitals and universities and things like that. And for initially, we were extremely worried because basically the conversations just stopped. Everything basically has stopped for the last like 3-4 weeks, and so there isn't really a way to solve that because there's other priorities for all the organizations we deal with. However, what's come in the last couple of, so one of the things that we basically were doing was very much what Aldo had said in some of his presentation, which is we were looking at how do we preserve as much cash as possible, how do we do various things. So we're moving because the team have already moved to like home working and remote working. We're actually, one of the biggest savings we were going to make, or we are going to make, is probably to close our central London office and move everything to remote working. And actually we spent this week essentially doing that, and it's not been too bad, and that preserves quite a lot of cash. The other thing we're trying to do is look at other things that we can do to preserve cash as far as possible. So that's been our kind of primary focus for the first bit. What then happened is we thought that we took some advice, like the stuff that you guys were sharing on the WhatsApp group. So we had a good think about what could we offer to our user base in a different way to think about how we would work. And so this morning we launched, or late this morning we launched a product that was aimed at young doctors who are or medical students who are basically being asked to go on to the front lines of the health service and actually provide care when they're not fully prepared. And what we've ended up with is basically we're getting about 1 sign up a minute right now on that product. So we've had about 250 doctors sign up already today. That's been quite interesting. It's not a paid product. We're literally just offering it to try and get people to think about to support them as they get into the first stages of their career. So it's not like we're showing kind of revenue or anything, but the interesting thing is just the rate, the absolutely rate that we're now building, we're getting people signing up at. So and then subsequently we've had some emails in the last couple of like today effectively are saying that people want to kind of work with us on specific things, and can we support them doing it. So I'm not it's not been as bad as it could have been, but it's not great, as it were. And so we're kind of we had a really dire week up till yesterday, and then when we started doing this, it's been like we've had some indications that we're really starting to people have really taken an interest in some of the stuff we're working on. So I'm hopeful that that converts into other ways that we might be able to just survive through to the end of the year, because right now I think everyone, like all of our the whole industry is all about survival, right? Can we get to the end of 2020? And currently looking at the projections for most kind of health organizations, the projections are not great. So yeah.
I see. Thank you, Johan. I'll give the floor to Aldo before I move to the next question to everyone.
Yeah, so in our case, I mean, we have several business models. So, even pre-crisis, we diversified. So we have our B2C clients, which are individual teachers looking for additional employment. We expect that demand to increase. But I do think at this moment, we see also that people are finding a new balance. So it's just hitting everyone in a different way every day. And we have over thousands of people who have applied to work as a digital instructor for TeachPitch, to train other teachers digitally. We expect a rise, and we've had requests of people, hey, what can we do more? Can we apply and stuff like that? So that's good news for us. We also see that people are in a little bit of a panic modus, and it changes every day. Having said that, we do expect in the next weeks for that to stabilize and then to grow. On the B2B side, which is where we're dealing with schools on the one hand, they're very much in turmoil. Also, as William said, they're not very responsive to do any new deals, to do any kind of new annual deals, for hey, do this or do that. But they are very receptive to kind of any form of emergency aid, if you will, that we can provide to them, for them to sustain also in this situation. Think specifically about distance learning or distance teaching. I also saw Teacherly developing some initiatives on that specific level. So I would highly recommend for people who have a B2B SaaS product to reach out to their constituents and say, here's what we can do for you in this specific scenario. Here's how we can help. That doesn't necessarily have to be a concrete business model, but it does show empathy and awareness, which I think is very important to retain your clients once we get it to the new normal. So that's what we're doing with these clients. And then for education companies who are looking for product validation and marketing validation, they're still interested, but they're obviously they have their own fish to fry. So we are still talking to them, and they're keeping us in the loop. But every education company that I speak to say, well, can we talk about this next week, because I have these 20 things to deal with first, which is also very understandable. So we do think they will come back to us, but that needs some further stabilization in the coming weeks.
That's very interesting. So then my next question is, we're seeing many edtech companies still kind of having a surge in the number of signups, in the number of users, or even intensity of usage of their product, but that doesn't necessarily translate in increased revenue. Can you guys maybe give us ideas or some potential explanations about that? Maybe can we start with you, David? Do you have any comment on this?
Well, I think Will hit on that really well earlier. Not to steal his fire on this one, but one of the things that we are seeing is, teachers in the education landscape. I think that they're forced generally to be really tactical. They have to, their heads down. They have to put out the next fire that's about to start. Whether it's a challenging situation in the classroom or something that's being imposed upon them from the state or the government. Like they're always thinking about what they need to do tomorrow. My wife is an elementary school teacher, and it's been fascinating. And all of our schools are closed, like pretty much everywhere. And she's essentially been put on pause right now. Like she is ready to go, but she's to work with kids remotely, to facilitate conversations, to keep learning going. And she's effectively been told no. First of all, in the state of Washington, where I am, that they've removed all testing requirements for the year. They've also told them that they want kids to get on computers to meet with their teachers, but they need to make sure that every kid has a computer. And then there are things around privacy that they haven't negotiated yet. So she, like many teachers, I believe now, are like actually being told to stand down for the moment. And that's good for them health-wise. They need to rest and take care of themselves. They're in many ways like healthcare workers on the front line of disease transmission. But also it's giving them a chance to look up from their tactical view of what am I doing today or in the next half hour, and thinking about what am I doing 3 months from now when school starts back up, and giving them a chance to think about. I mean, we're seeing that in our lead board, that a lot of people are coming to us. They're like, I don't know what to do right now. So they're just doing internet searches and thinking about the programs, their sort of dream program that they've always wanted to start, and it brings them to us. So I think that it's the fact that they're just being less tactical right now. They're having the space and time to be a bit more strategic.
And so they're still on exploration mode.
I think they're only just starting to be honest. I think that there's going to be a lot of that coming up. I think there'll be more than there is now.
I see. William, David, thank you. William, can you elaborate on this?
Yeah, I think going back to your original question of some education technology firms may see an increase in terms of adoption or trials or usage, but does that necessarily translate towards revenue? I think number one is, we do not want to be ambulance chasers, right? It's really a phrase to say, hey, we don't want to be just gouging people and having any bad press during any of this moment. So a lot of firms are actually offering free versions. I know Johan has mentioned a product they've put out for free. So I don't necessarily think that you'll see an immediate translation to revenue, especially during this crisis mode, right? If anything, what we should be focused on, and this is kind of ideas that we're toying around here at Chalk, is to say, what can we be giving to these educators in times of crisis? We certainly see folks like what David is saying, being longer term thinking, being more strategic. But believe me, most of the people are right now, at least, in the panic mode, right? They are wondering how to take their classes online. They are evaluating Zoom, evaluating WebEx, very basics, right? We're not even talking about any Edtech, very basics, even scheduling. How do I ensure that, do we teach this at the same time? Our students have access to internet, a laptop? So those are really the basic questions that they have. And any form of mentions of technology they are grasping onto. And so potentially as an opportunity, but certainly you want to be sensitive towards this. But we don't believe that right now is we're going to see an upward trend in terms of revenue. We of course, if you provide a valuable service, hopefully that gets recognized, and when this is over, those folks will translate towards actual dollars and revenues.
I see. Interesting. So revenue not now, maybe later on after the crisis potentially.
Absolutely, provided that again you look through the opportunity lens, and that's something that if you can capture again with sensitivity in mind, that may be translated towards revenue. With any kind of change in norm, that actually generally speaking provides opportunities and shakes things up in general.
Yeah, so I was going to ask actually, because one of the things I mean, Williams summed up exactly our kind of our view, which is that we're the kind of industries we're all in, either education and in our case health, it doesn't lend yourself well to be like so fixated on like immediacy in terms of money anyway, and you kind of are always navigating this path of being seen to add value, but do it in a kind of very sensitive way, as it were. And I think this situation, if anything, has kind of really highlighted that, in that we've been we ended up with, we've really had to think about how do we go to, what is our kind of plan, because on one hand we're seriously worried about the long survivability of the company generally, just because of the situation. Our predominant revenues all come from B2B, and yet our the ability to have a conversation with a B2B client right now is zero. Whereas we also know that the what we can do to support the system is to try and really help people. And actually in that scenario, the team is like really focused on that. Our staff are motivated by that, and so we're able to deliver something that has obvious traction. And I think, as William said, the kind of strategic view we've taken is to think, why not? Let's just we have the runway we have. We can do what we can do. But if we're going to go down, at least we'll go down in the right way in terms of trying to do the right thing. And actually, we hope that by doing that, we will see that we're hoping that the economic situation isn't going to be as dire as that I've been kind of worrying about, but also that that we will start seeing a wider support. And actually, when we've approached it in that way, when we've been talking to our suppliers, to our landlord, to various other parties, people are relatively really supportive. And we've seen actually, like, one of our kind of main commissioners came back to me today and was like, we'd really like to move forward with a project. It's just a headspace, but we know how hard you guys are working on trying to make things work. So let's just assume that let's assume it's going ahead and try and work that through. And so it's that kind of thing we're kind of working on.
Thank you. I think we're up in terms of time. I would like first to thank Aldo for all the content that he shared and his insights. This has been great content that we think Edtech Ventures can benefit greatly, at least as a structure to start tackling challenges that they go through these days. I would like to thank all our Edtech founders that joined the conversation and shared their insights and experience with us during these difficult days that prove also to be, in certain circumstances, great opportunities to showcase great work that has been done in Edtech over the past few years. So thank you very much all for joining this webinar. This webinar has been recorded and will be shared with our WISE community, and further bite-sized content will be shared with the broader community worldwide. Thank you very much, Aldo, and everyone for joining.